Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Michael Tucker with the Institute of New Thought, and I am here again with Lisa Hromada, author of Love is the Seed, Teachings from the Spirit World, and Three Supreme Gifts, a practical approach to self-mastery and to transforming your life here and now. And in our last video, we talked a little bit about your book, Love is the Seed, but we're going to dive into the three supreme gifts today. And just why don't we get started with that? Why don't you talk about what the three supreme gifts are?
Sure. So first, what inspired me to write on the three supreme gifts is because as I was going through the mini sessions of Love is the Seed, there is a repetition and message regarding love, thought, and free will. And I don't know at what point it was, but I realized that love, thought, and free will, these three supreme gifts, they call them supreme truths that each are forged with coming into this life, are really all you need to have that creative empowerment over your life, to create anything that you wish for your life. And when I realized that, I was amazed. I was taken back. And so I thought, okay, let me just write out, go in depth into love, thought, and free will and what that really means, and how anyone can implement these supreme gifts in their life to be able to find that spiritual balance, to find a greater understanding for their life, a greater understanding for why they experience what they experience, the heartache, the loss, the challenges, things like that. And also, when they're in the midst of those challenges, how can they get themselves out of it by understanding love, thought, and free will? So it's really where that spiritual part of you connects with the personality part of you. So that's what the three supreme gifts are: love, thought, and free will. It's thought that creates, free will that expresses, and love is the foundation that functions and guides. And so that's how they work in harmony with one another.
Wow. So it sounds like love is the driving force, if you will, the force behind it all.
Right. That's the seed of everything. And what's really interesting is that love relates to this aspect of love given. They talk a lot in Love is the Seed about love given versus love held closely. Versus love held closely. And love given is an unconditional love. It's the love that each soul is created to be, by God, and so they talk about in this life, love given is the giving out of love. It's doing something kind for another. It's listening to another. It's patience. It's compassion, mercy, grace, everything that God is, and everything that piece of God in you is. And so, and how that benefits you and how that benefits other people. So when you understand the true meaning of love in this divine sense, then, that's at that very foundation for everything that you do. So then you think about thought. Thought comes in between love and free will. And thought is where you get the most stuck. With thought's a state of confusion in and of itself. It's just, a thought is a state of confusion. And when we assign emotions to that thought, then it brings a life of its own to the thought, and that thought can live on forever in the memory of the soul. So that's what they talk about karma. When you live out these karmic experiences, often that relates to these stored thoughts, these stored emotions that you come into this life and you experience for the sake of learning. And what you're learning is that the wisdom of eternal love, which is at the seed of your creation. So you get to thought, and you can use thought in a very empowering way when you can use it in a way that is wholly beneficial. Again, whole and complete, beneficial for you and for other people. And then you get to free will, and that guides your free will choice. So if you get confused within the thought aspect of your life, then that can block that love aspect of you. That's that foundation, and it can also misguide your free will actions and take you down the wrong path.
Yeah. So I have a question. So you caught me when you said that thought is a place of confusion. And I could imagine our viewers might look at that a lot of different ways. Are you saying that most people are walking around in a state of confusion?
No, but a thought is a thought. Just think of it like, it pops into your mind. But so a thought is a thought. What is it until it's nothing really until you assign meaning to it?
Mm.
When that emotion comes into it. So when you react to it.
Yeah.
So, a thought alone is a state of confusion until, something is assigned to it, a meaning is assigned to it.
So as people participate in the practice of love, or in the process of raising their consciousnness, like you talk about in your book, how does that impact people's thought process?
Well, there's a clarity. There is what I talk about in the three supreme gifts is that there's this energy of solutions, and the energy of solutions is an actual energy, and it's a clarity. So I visualize it because I'm a very visual person. So I visualize it as, let's say on this one side is the energy of thoughts, and it's it's just a bunch of thoughts, confusing thoughts, and occasionally one might pop into your mind, and out of nowhere, that's that state of confusion that I'm talking about, that thoughts kind of come out of nowhere sometimes. And then there's this energy, this clarity of energy of solution. So when you can connect, and anyone can connect with this energy of solutions, simply by knowing that there's always a solution to something. I think people get really stuck, including myself sometimes. They get stuck in a problem, and they're just trying to think. They're trying to think, what do I do? What do I do? And they think too much on it. And sometimes it takes, time to relax the mind in order to get into this energy of solutions and know that a solution will become available to you,
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like maybe the confusing aspect of the thoughts is the fact that there's so much of this energy, if you will, that because it's coming through the mind, maybe it's the collective human conversation, and maybe that's what.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're constantly bombarded by other people's thoughts, and we come into this life, and we experience this life with other souls, going through their experience of, and they have their own free will, they have their own thoughts, and thoughts form beliefs, and you begin to form your own beliefs. So it can be really confusing,
Sure.
And so that's the confusing part of thinking. But there's a clarity aspect of what you have innately within you, of what where you're created, how you're created, to be in touch with this aspect of this energy of solutions, which is a divine energy. And so connecting with that by kind of relaxing the mind. And there's different ways of doing that, which I talk about in the three supreme gifts.
Sure. So this energy of solutions, or energy of clarity, really comes by being present.
Absolutely, yeah. Because when we're in our thinking, we're often thinking about the past or the future, and there's of course many people who talk about being in the present moment, but there's something so important about that is talked about in both of the books in various ways. There's actually one quote that I want to read off that really summarizes this aspect of love, thought, and free will. And I'll just try to do that if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So this is actually a quote from the three supreme gifts. This is a session out of Love is the Seed that I put in the three supreme gifts. This is a wise, wise, wise one. I am that I am. When mankind as individuals begin to express that eternal love, begin to understand that all are created equal in the eyes of God, begin to realize that the justice in your hearts you shall have, begin to accept each element and individual right of free will expression without judgment, where that free will expression does not infringe upon the rights of other individual elements' free will expression, that each element of God has consciousness, then peace will exist. And that's a mouthful, but within there, speaks to this eternal love, that expression of eternal love that is at your seed, this free will aspect of that you have free will and not to infringe upon another's free will, and that all are created equal in the eyes of God. And where thought comes into that is when that thought can connect with the energy of solutions, which is that divine energy. And that's how these three supreme gifts come together and work together to create that that full creative empowerment that you have over your life.
Yeah, wow. So if someone wanted to apply this principle of the free gifts, of the supreme gifts in a very practical way, where would you tell them to start?
A lot of times I suggest starting with a recentering mantra, or which is just some words, but they're crafted in a way that um, that connect you, that align you with this divine energy. So saying words that connect with the that connect with love, that's compassion, grace, mercy, patience, remembering what that love really means and how and being able to apply that in your life. And when it comes to thought, what's that recentering thing for you that takes you outside of the thoughts that are not benefiting you? And that's, there's always a solution for everything. So you have these gifts that you've been given in this life, and they don't take much time at all um, to utilize. I mean, you do it naturally anyway when you're giving to another, when you're patient with another, when you listen, without distraction to another. All these things show love, and that's how it translates into this life. And so when it comes to the three supreme gifts, it's really geared in a way where when you're not in that flow of life, you can get yourself back into it within minutes, just by understanding the three supreme gifts.
Yeah. So it really sounds like what you're talking about is this is a lifestyle. It's a process of remembering each day who you are, who you were created to be, and not allowing the thought conversation, if you will, to determine what that actually is, because you're so much more.
Well, yeah, and I think it's just allowing that flow of life to come. I mean, you're gonna have people who are in moods. You're gonna have if you're a parent, your kids are gonna want something that want more of your time, or there's things that come in. There's constantly responsibilities, and my intention for the three supreme gifts is really geared toward these people who are ambition centered and family centered, who are very busy, but they want that greater flow for their life, and they want to be able to handle situations in a better way so that they can fully utilize their time and enjoy this life. That's really what it's all about, and why I have introduced these books.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if someone wants to get a hold of this beautiful work that you've created, whether it's the three supreme gifts or Love is the Seed, how can they do that?
Well, I would go to my website, loveistheseed.com, and on there I have links to where they can find more information about the books, or just simply looking at blog posts and seeing what resonates with them, or downloading free resources. viewing videos on consciousness, or there's prayers, things like that. Just anything that resonates with them, that's where they can go.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us today,
Thank
Lisa.
you.